Welcome to Web Development Lesson 8.2. In this video, we're going to explore how to make RESTful API calls to resources that require an API key, which means we're going to have to register on the website. We're also going to see how we can specify multiple parameters in our call. So let's get to it. So as our motivation, we want to create a website that pulls weather information from OpenWeather. So let's go over to the API page, and you can see here there's many different RESTful API calls we can use. Let's go over to the current weather. And what we want to do is we want to request it by zip code. So I'm going to click right down to that. So here is our base RESTful API call, and you can see that it ends in a question mark. The question mark allows us to specify various parameters after the RESTful API base link, such as the zip code. But you'll notice at the very end, it also wants an API key. What this does is that this helps the website kind of monitor who's using their resource, just in case somebody decides to use it maliciously. So let's review how we can go about getting a API key. So I have a couple of slides for that, so we're going to jump back to here. So obviously the first thing you would do is you have to sign up for an account and log in. Once you've logged in, again, most sites that require you to have an API key will have something underneath your particular profile name that kind of clearly states that, okay, here's where you go to get your API keys. So you're going to want to click that. Again, for OpenWeather, you click on your name and click on My API Keys. From there, it's usually pretty simple. They'll have some button that says Generate that also allows you kind of specify the name of the key. Now, this is not something you want to freely give out to anybody, because again, this key now is attached to your name on this account. Now, it ends up being this is free, but still, you don't want your particular key to be maliciously used and then be attached to you. Now, you might be thinking, well, why are you putting your key up in this video? That's because I'll be able to delete this key after the video, which is why if you notice my default one has been X'd out so you don't see it. All right, so having understood that, having understood what the base URL for the RESTful API call is, we are now able to go over to our replit. And what you'll see here is that I decided to create a separate variable called key. So that way, if I want to use various API calls to OpenWeather, I don't have to keep repeating this very long, ugly key over and over again. So again, I'm just going to reuse the variable. Like I stated earlier, though, you want to be careful with this because right now the key is visible to anybody who looks at your page, which means they're free to copy it and then use it for their own uses. All right, going into, I guess we should take a quick look at our HTML. Again, since we're going to be requesting weather by zip, we are providing the user a text input to allow them to enter the zip. And let me just show you that from the HTML side. So here you go. Here's the text input. We ask them to enter the zip code. Now that we have the key and the zip, we are ready to construct our RESTful API call. So you notice this is our base link that we had earlier. I decided to add an additional feature here called units equals imperial. And that is, I'm going to scroll to the very bottom. Oops, maybe not towards the very bottom. I know it's around here somewhere. Here we go. Units of measurements. So if we don't specify that, we're going to get the temperatures back in Kelvin. And I don't know about you. I'm not comfortable with the use of Kelvin. I am comfortable with the use of Fahrenheit. And it tells you here, you would add the parameter of units equals imperial. which goes back to what we had mentioned at the beginning of the video on the slide. You're going to learn how to specify multiple parameters as part of your RESTful API call. Again, right after the question mark, this is where you start entering in those multiple parameters, with each of them being linked with the ampersand. So you can see here it's units equals imperial and zip equals whatever the zip was that they entered in, plus the key. Now, if you notice the key, I've already added the and that parameter with the value that it needs. So again, that's all being constructed together. So if we go into our web page here, and let's just do a refresh just to make sure everything's cool. We can see here we do get some information back. And if you drill down to it, you'll see that it has name, some coordinates, some clouds. The main has humidity, pressure, temperature. Again, all kinds of information that you might want to put as part of a card. There's another one called weather here that has a description, an icon, and what else here? I guess rain. All right, so I'm not going to bore you with the building of the card. Again, at this point, you should be comfortable with how to take information from a JSON and build a card. So what I've done is I already have that information here, and I'm just going to copy and paste it into our code. And just to show you, I mean, this has the same thing. Again, the variable data represents this information that we got back. And all I've done here is drill down to those different key values and then put them onto a card. All right, so let's do a output dot inner HTML equals build. And let's see that card actually pop up. I'm going to close this out, refresh the page, and there you go. So this was pretty cool. Again, we got the name of the location. Even though we put the zip, it was able to provide it to us through that JSON. We got the Latin longs. We got a little icon that came along with the information. We got a description of light rain, temperature of 52, humidity 90, wind speed. All right, so usually when you get the daily weather, it's nice to kind of see maybe a 7-day forecast. So for that, we're going to go back to the API page on Open Weather. And again, there's various ones we can use. We're going to use this one here, the daily forecast 16 days. And what you'll see here is that the API call is a little bit different. In the other one, it was weather. And this one, it's forecast/daily. Now, there is also the option to request it by zip code. So we're going to keep it the same. So that way we're not asking the user for anything new. So let's go back to our web page and let's got that here. So this may be something that you haven't tried yet, which is to make several API calls based off the same information. So I haven't asked the user for anything else. I'm using that same zip code value that we got originally that we used for the first API call, and I'm simply going to use it with the second API call. You'll see that I've modified the RESTful API call to reflect the one for the forecast so we can actually get the daily weather. I've also included the units imperial, and the rest of it's the same, which is to include the zip and the key. Again, this was the other nice reason for having the key here, is that we don't have to necessarily replicate it on this side. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to dump it out to the web page so we can investigate it. And you'll see that this particular, okay, there we go. I was going to say, why isn't that opening? Oops, you know what? This is the other one. I gotcha. So this was the data from this one. This is the data from the new one. You'll notice that it's a little bit different, and you'll see that there's a list here uh, that has 7 things in it. And within here, now we have, uh, what do we have here? Let's go down to the weather one, because that's pretty much the same thing we did earlier. So we can see we have description, we have another icon that we can use. We got temperatures for the day, the evening. Again, all different kinds of things you can use to build your card. Now, because this is a list and we want to do 7 days, obviously we're going to need to have a for loop that goes through this. So again, I'm not going to bore you with the typing. I'm just going to copy the code and simply review it with you. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to do this part because we're going to have it display all in one shot. So this first part will build the card for the 1 day, which will be nice and long, and then we'll include the 7-day cards underneath. So you can see here from looking at here, we have this is data and this is a list. So we're going to go through data.list.length. We're going to create a variable just to make life easy as we go through it to represent each of those days in that list. And then at that point, we're just simply building a card inside the for loop for each of those days, which includes the day number, the temperature of that particular day, the icon, and then the description. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and refresh. And there you go. So that's pretty neat. Again, we used one input and we made 2 RESTful API calls, one to pull the 1-day weather and then one to pull the forecast for the week. So let's go back to our presentation and review what we've done. So in this video, we saw how certain RESTful API calls require an API key. Again, that helps the website, the web resource that's providing this information, track who's using it and prevent any kind of malicious over abuse of calls to their website. We saw that we can construct RESTful API calls that have multiple parameters by simply using the question mark and then the and symbol to kind of concatenate all those parameters. Again, we use the Open Weather RESTful API call resource, but I would say most RESTful API calls that require an API key pretty much just work the same way, where you're going to log in, you're going to register, and then you're going to generate a key that you can use as part of that call. So hopefully you're excited about being able to use a sea of different RESTful API calls and enjoy.